If every person, every company, and every government is in debt, who is actually getting paid? Think about it. You hear constantly that the United States has trillions in national debt. Businesses are taking loans, people have mortgages, credit cards, student loans. It almost sounds like the entire world is underwater financially. So the obvious question is, if everyone owes money, where is that money actually going? Because debt isn't just a number on a spreadsheet. Debt is a relationship. And once you understand that relationship, you start seeing the financial system very differently. Let's start with something simple. Imagine your neighbor lends you $1,000. You now have a debt. But from your neighbor's perspective, they don't see it as debt. They see it as an asset. Your debt is their investment. This is the first important shift in thinking. Debt doesn't disappear. It simply moves. For every borrower, there is always a lender. Now scale that idea up to the entire global economy. When governments borrow money, they issue bonds. Those bonds are purchased by investors, large institutions, pension funds, insurance companies, banks, investment funds, sometimes even foreign governments. For example, when the US government borrows money, a large portion of that debt is held by institutional investors, managing retirement funds for millions of people. So in a strange way, the people owed money are often the same people hearing about the debt crisis. But that still leaves another question. Why does debt keep growing if everyone knows it exists? The answer is surprisingly simple. Debt is one of the main tools used to grow economies. Think of it like fuel. If a company wants to expand, hire employees, buy equipment, or build infrastructure, they usually need capital before the revenue arrives. That gap between spending money and earning money is where debt lives. Governments build infrastructure before tax revenue comes in. Companies invest in growth before profits arrive. Individuals buy homes before they've saved the full price. Debt bridges time. It allows the future to fund the present, but here's where things become more interesting. Not all debt is created equal. Some debt builds productive assets. Some debt simply delays problems. Smart operators, and especially business owners, also learn to tell the difference. For example, if a trucking company takes on debt to buy another truck that generates revenue every week, that debt can create growth. But if the same company takes on debt just to survive a cash flow crunch caused by slow-paying clients, that's a different situation entirely. And this is actually one of the most common hidden problems in business. A company does the work, they deliver the product, they send the invoice. But payment doesn't arrive for 30, 60, sometimes even 90 days. Meanwhile, payroll still needs to be paid, fuel still needs to be purchased, suppliers still expect payment. So the business technically earned the money, but it can't access it yet. This is where financial tools come into play. One option many companies use is something called invoice factoring. Instead of waiting weeks or months for a client to pay, a business can sell that invoice and receive most of the cash immediately. It essentially converts accounts receivable into working capital. At Advancely, that's exactly what we help businesses do. We help companies unlock the cash tied up in their unpaid invoices so they can keep operating, growing, and paying their teams without waiting for slow payment cycles. Because in business, timing often matters just as much as profit. Now, stepping back to the bigger picture, once you understand that debt is simply someone else's asset, the global system makes more sense. Debt isn't just about money. It's about control over future cash flows. Whoever holds the debt often has a claim on future income. That's why financial institutions care so much about lending. Because when they lend money, they're purchasing a slice of future economic activity. Think of it like planting seeds. The borrower receives capital today. The lender receives returns over time. But there's another layer to this conversation that most people overlook. Debt concentrates influence. Large institutions that hold massive amounts of bonds and loans often gain significant economic influence. They shape markets, they influence interest rates, they affect investment decisions across entire industries. This is why serious entrepreneurs pay attention to financial systems. Not because they want to memorize economic theory, but because understanding the system allows them to operate inside it more intelligently. There are generally two types of business owners: the ones who constantly react to financial pressure, and the ones who design systems that protect them from it. The first group waits until cash flow becomes a problem. The second group anticipates it. They build financial flexibility into their operations. They understand how capital moves. They understand how to access liquidity when opportunities appear. Because the truth is, most businesses don't fail due to lack of demand. They fail because they run out of cash at the wrong time. And in an economy built on delayed payments, credit, and financial leverage, timing becomes everything. So when people ask, who's actually getting paid when everyone has debt? The answer is simple. The people who control the flow of capital, the lenders, the investors, the institutions, and the operators who understand how to use financial tools intelligently. Debt itself isn't the enemy. Misunderstanding it is. The entrepreneurs who succeed long term are the ones who learn how money moves, how financing works, and how to position their businesses so they're never trapped waiting for cash that already belongs to them. And if you're curious how much working capital your invoices might unlock, you can try the free calculator from Advancely. Just enter your invoice amount and get a quick estimate of what funding could look like for your business. Sometimes the difference between financial stress and financial control is simply understanding the tools available to you.